All right, what's up, New York? How's it going? I'm Ross Vacaturo, bringing you guys the 70th episode of the Apples to Apples podcast. And right out of the gates, we got a little bit of a show announcement. This will be my first and the first of many episodes with a now new co-host joining the show, my buddy G. What's up, man? Happy to have you, and hopefully, like I said, this is the first of many, and we do something with the show, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. This is awesome. This is definitely a long time coming. It's been a long time since I've been on, but hopefully I can knock the cobwebs off.
Nah, for sure. We were talking about it too. Like, I've been trying to get a co-host for a minute, and we've known each other for a little bit on Twitter. Obviously the Rangers fandom, which we'll get into. Haven't talked much Rangers so far. Throughout the gates this season, right out the gates this season. So, what better way to do it? New co-host aboard for the long run, and I mean, if you want to get right into it, man, we're looking at a 500 record right out of the gates. We've had 2 games on home ice to kick off this centennial season. And what better way to kick off said centennial season than doing something we have yet to do in the 100-year history of this franchise, which is get shut out in our first 2 home games of the year. So, gee, what are you seeing out there? What's wrong with this team? And are you seeing shades of last year's team already?
I mean, I don't think about. I try and put last year's stuff behind because if we do that, we can color a whole book, 100 years worth of just misery. But the ironic thing, the thing that I'm missing the most is, and I'm a fangirl of his, and I will proudly admit that JT Miller, I've been screaming for him to be the captain since February. So these first 4 games, I remember I missed the first game because I had work. I missed opening night all the way around. But these last 3, I know on the game with Pittsburgh, I had to check the lineup to see if he was in it because he was just ghost. He was nowhere to be found. And I'm really not a fan of him being on. I don't care if he's first line or second line. I'm not a fan of his line mates. I'm not. And it's not them. It's just I feel like his kind of caliber game is just maybe a tad different than Cooley's and whoever's going to be playing wing next to them there. So, I mean, Igor looks like Igor. That's what we come to expect. Quick is quick. I mean, he looked phenomenal last night. And that's something that so many teams can't say they have. We have a 1-2 combo that our 2 can be number 1 on any team in this league. So it's not about we have to stop the goals. We need to get it together. That game, the game that we just blew out Pittsburgh, we were all over the place. And we incorporated the shots from the point all the time. What did Washington do? They watched the tape because they were all over our blue line. They had no room to move. They literally looked, I don't want to say lost, but they looked frazzled. So the idea that the league is already seeing, all right, well, if Fox has 3 goals in 3 games, 2 in 1 game, and he's just shooting the puck, all right, well, we're going to put pressure on him. So you're telling me nobody had foresight to be like, okay, so if this happens for this plan, we're going to cycle around and do something else? And we didn't do that. I'm not blaming the players. I'm leaning more towards of the coaching staff and not really having a game plan for if their plan becomes umbrella.
Well, that was the thing. I think it's kind of both. Right out of the gates, you see the Sullivan. We got Quinn back behind the bench. You never thought you'd see that day come back.
No,
But I think you kind of see from last year too their lack of being able to adjust. They had that. What was it? We went on 3 months with about 2 power play goals. The fucking efficiency was like less than 10%.
Yeah.
There was a complete lack of adjustment, and right out of the gates, now you're seeing like it doesn't matter who they're playing, they're going out there with the same approach. We're almost seeing shades of the fucking dump and chase approach of the days when back when Vigneault was with the team, right?
Yeah.
We saw a little bit of that last year.
Yep. And what's crazy is, again, Pittsburgh, we had 2 power play goals, a shorthanded goal, a 4th line goal. So it's not. I don't feel like it was us against Washington. It was Washington being on top of our game. So if we're not going to adjust mid-game, mid-shift, then what are we doing? We can't just go, oh, they got us, and then skate out the 60 minutes. We can't do that.
That's what it felt like last year. If we were down 1-0, game was shot. And it's one thing for me and you and all the folks on Twitter to say that out loud. It's another thing when you're seeing it, embodied on the ice. They went down a goal, they were flat. And it's kind of like, we talked about it. You could talk about it with the Mets too. And it's so eerie how parallel the
Yeah.
two seasons are in a row, kind of like the year one magic carpet ride. You exceed all expectations, you get eliminated in your respective conference championship. And year two, you don't, you not only are you a major disappointment, you flat out miss the fucking playoffs entirely. And I
No.
think kind of the one, the middle of the Venn diagram for both is the lack of being able to come back in a game late. And with both teams, add to that, they kind of had the comeback kid mantra attached to them. The Rangers, I think they led the league in like third period comeback wins down in the third period at any point, wind up winning the game. And the Mets, I mean, they had like 15, 20 comeback wins themselves. The Mets took it to a whole new low, didn't win a one singular
Single
fucking
one.
game. At least the Rangers had a couple. They weren't very memorable, but they had a couple. But still, I mean, the same thing. You were down a goal with last year's Ranger team. You had no expectation whatsoever that you were going to get out of there with 1 or 2 points. And this year, so far out of the gates, you take the game again, up in Buffalo. Shesty stands on his head, like you said. We've come to expect that. And even against Pittsburgh, he was solid. But like you said, the offense did enough. And I think that's going to be the thing with this organization moving forward. And some people, myself included, kind of thought maybe once Benny Allaire retired, maybe there'd be a change of philosophy. But for so many years with Igor now, what you could even say Quick, as good as he's been as a backup, it almost feels like we got a platoon, which I know it's not. Shesty's probably the 1B to Hellbuck's 1A. Some people probably even got him as number one in the league, but he's right up there. So he's the bona fide starter. But that's how good of a backup Quick's been for us that it almost feels like a platoon on some nights. And then going back to the Hank D's, it just feels so much like you got, 26 guys or 21 guys rather that are so reliant on the backstop that's behind them, and they're not going to go out there night in night out give 100% because they're like, it don't give a fuck or it don't mean shit. We have the best goalie in the league as a last resort, and I don't think that's the case every night. But I think big picture, you look at why so many of these runs, some more dynamic than other out of the gates, have all peaked at the Eastern Conference Finals or sooner every single year. You had like that one buffer year in between when Hank got bought out and when we finally saw like the emergence of Igor. But other than that, you basically had a direct handing of the baton from Hank to Igor, and we've seen the same shit from every other forward and defenseman on the team. It's just been lackluster. It's been a lack of adjustment, and it pretty much feels like the same little mistakes that we've seen year after year, just with different names and numbers on the backs of the jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, being so dependent on the guy between the pipes, it's unfair. First of all, to Igor, it's unfair to whoever's back there, and maybe that's also a leadership role. Whoever I guess Fox is the number one D guy right now. I mean, that clubhouse has to take some sort of control of each individual situation, offense, defense, whatever. And I know it's only 4 games in, but I was saying this to my girlfriend last night. The problem isn't that it's happening; it's that this is like a fungus, and unless you knock it out now, you get all these different sort of feelings. And I'm going from a player's perspective, where you can't get the monkey off your back, or it's the same mishaps, and now there's more pressure. Now you're gripping your stick, and you don't just flow. And again, it can start as simple as 4 games in. So I don't know if maybe, and this was us talking about JT. Now, I don't know if it's because, he's got the C, and that comes with an enormous responsibility, especially at a franchise of this magnitude in the city that he's in. I mean, this isn't Vancouver. I don't care what it is. Canada is Canada. New York
Right.
City is just the weight element alone. It can carry a lot. So I don't want him to fall into like this, I have to. He needs to, if he plays his game and leads like the way Callahan did, he's going to do amazing. Callie was my favorite captain. He wore his colors on his chin. It didn't matter. He's going to block shots. He's going to get in the dirty areas. And he played his game hard-nosed. JT, I feel, is a way more skilled player, but still has that mentality. And he's just got to, relax.
No, for sure. No, not to cut you off, but like it
No.
almost felt like some people were saying that with Truba, but if you looked at like the nitty gritty of all of it, you had that occasional that hip check, but he wasn't more often than not, he was sitting net front.
Yeah.
He wasn't, he wasn't going in the trenches and shit, going after loose pucks. And that was kind of like, I hate to say it, you saw the highlight reels of him, not the dude, Kiara on Chicago. You got, the list goes on and on. The Domi check. More often than not, he was a pussy. He was afraid to go after the puck. And that was kind of like a lot of people thought like the soft mentality that stemmed through the locker room kind of started with him. And, I feel like he was the one that, like, the one move last year that didn't beat around the bush. I think he brought up a great point, like the fungus, and kind of like how one misstep could lead to another. And it felt like every misstep found its way on our ice last season. And I feel like he was the only move that wasn't beating around the bush. The Kako move, the Hedel move was technically a buy move, bringing in Miller, but the linger move, like, this wasn't, you weren't digging deep and, straight into the core. You know what I'm saying? You were just like pulling the weeds out, but you weren't fucking pulling the roots out with them. And I who knows if the Kreider move will be that, what we saw in the offseason. And so far, I mean, Keandre Miller's looking like fucking Bobby Orr out in
I knew
Carolina.
that was gonna happen. One
You
of those
had
two
to
were
know,
gonna go
bro.
off. Yeah.
I'm surprised Kaka wasn't leading the league in fucking goals. Because I know the second he got out there, he was looking like Jari Curry.
Yep.
And
I'm not see, it's my fault people keep getting trade. Like, I love Buchnevich, loved him. Kako, loved him. Every time I get a Rangers jersey and I put a name on them, they get traded. And this goes as far back as Callahan. With my boys at We Bleed Blue, I bought the Cali sweatshirt and then he was traded. I was like, this is freaking crazy. So I don't have anybody else jinxed. Oh, Panarin. I have Panarin. Yep, he's probably going to be gone now.
yeah, he'll be gone next year.
That's my fault. But I honestly think, listen, the Washington game, I think, was our first real taste that is the Kreider effect. I feel like that is what we're going to be missing. Because Kreider was that guy that he will park himself. He's gonna score. He doesn't care what he can take a stick to the back of the head. But his team came first. And that's why, 5 minutes left, you almost felt it. Like that was the difference between then and now. Last night, you were praying for just a rebound, a tip, something to go our way. Last year, we were expecting that to happen. And now, in thinking about what you were saying, I think the actual missing of Kreider, we saw firsthand for the first time last night.
If anybody out there that watches West Coast hockey, he's already got 2 goals on the year.
Yep.
The second of which was a game tie with like less than a minute left, and was essentially, it wasn't like his stereotypical, net front little tip in. It was probably the closest you'll see of a snapshot out of him. Yeah. He really like snipe. He got a hold of that one, but so far he got 2 tallies on the year, one of which was a game tie. They wound up winning that game in OT. By the way, just a little side note, if you watch that game, bro, half the ice was former Rangers. You had Kreider, Trouba, Vetrano. I think Ryan Strome's hurt, right now, but, when he's on the ice, they got 4 Rangers there. San Jose, you got Ryan Reeves, Barclay Goodrow. There's another one I'm forgetting. And David Quinn's just, a year removed from that bench as well. Like I said before, he's with us now again. It's a full circle fever dream, but, it's crazy. Like you said, it's, I'm kind of on both ends of that. Yeah, you're obviously going to miss a guy right out of the gates that was basically, I wouldn't say he was the face of the team the entirety of the time he was here. More often than not, he probably wasn't, to be exact. But, you look at instances like that playing picture, right, of the team. I think that was a cup team or the 50 team, one of those two,
14, 15, 13, 14.
So that was a cup finals team then. All right. You had that picture years on years. You'd see face after face get grayed out, blacked out. Once they got traded, they signed elsewhere. Crowder was always the one consistent one. And funny enough, now we still got someone on that picture, JT Miller coming back full circle. But Crowder was always that face that people said, when Zuccarello got traded, grayed his face out, Brassard, et cetera, et cetera. Crowder was always the one face. And all these years later, I think the fact that we still kind of had at least one root from back in the good old days.
Yeah.
And now that he's gone, but
that's the nostalgia effect. I mean,
no doubt. Yeah, every year you could look at the ice and say, man, it's crazy that we still got somebody from the 2014 team, throwing the Rangers sweater on night in, night out. At the same time, though, I look at a Kreider, I almost look at like a career of 2 Kreiders. And I think the last couple years, most of which isn't his fault entirely, there was like that Kreider's Zibanejad bromance that would like make my blood boil, dude. Like the fact that no matter who was behind our bench, no matter who was calling the shots, it felt like, and we kind of finally saw a little bit of a glimpse of it last year. They finally pulled the plug on it. But the fact that like these two were inseparable, even when they weren't producing, it kind of felt like an Achilles heel, like a bullet they weren't willing to bite. And even though we saw last year they tried Mika at the right wing and we got a little bit out of him, but it kind of felt like it was broken at that point. And the whole thing, like Pat Verbeek, by the way, we could get into this now, or it's a fucking beyond a rabbit hole how Drury's mismanaged this cap. Are we in lockstep with that? I hope.
That's up to you. Chris Drury is on my list of I can't believe has a job, and that goes.
Thank you. No, you had me nervous for a second.
No,
I was just hoping we were.
And I don't even mean in the hockey world. I mean he could be flipping hamburgers. There's no way he's going to do that right. And I don't understand. Like if I were to put bets prior to his new contract, who was definitely gone, I would have bet my entire life savings that there was no way you and I would be having this conversation right now. None.
Even in 23. I couldn't believe you had an argument to be had with Gallant. I can't believe Drury stayed. I thought for sure he was the head that was going to roll. And he's still fucking here 2 years later, a whole ass failed regime later, and his head is still fucking here. It's crazy, bro. And, if you look at like what he's done with the cap, I mean, I was just looking to see if we were lockstep because I really don't know many Drury defenders. So I don't, sometimes you gotta be careful. Like you're stepping on glass. You don't want to piss them off because they get rowdy when they do. But I feel like there's not many left. And it's really hard to get this city in unison on something, especially in sports. So when you have 95 to 100% of the city fucking hating you, that's when you know you screwed up. And I feel like we're at that point with Chris Drury. Because look, he's pissed off the crowd to like, play the young kids by trading them for fucking nothing. He's also in that same breath pissed off the don't really play the waiting game with the kids, right? People like me who can't believe that. And there's kind of like question marks around the validity of the reports, but the summer of the around the trade deadline of the 24 season, we wind up getting Alexander Wedberg, Jack Roslovic is our entire deadline. There was the reports of the deal to be had for Frank Vetrano, and there was also the Jake Gensel sweepstakes. And the one constant I saw, like I said, whether it was valid or not, the one constant I saw was they were unwilling to let go of Capo Caco. Fast forward less than a year later, we wind up, finally cutting ties with him for Will fucking Borgen.
Yep.
Who's a fine player, but he's not what you drew up as being the end result of your second overall pick, a sheer, 6 years ago now?
Yeah.
It's wild, bro.
If you're going to really, hearing you say that, and listening, it's almost he's like wishy-washy where he won't stand on whatever he truly believes. So if you really believe in this kid and you're not willing to give up what you're supposedly making out to be a cornerstone, maybe not but a big piece to your team for a really decent return, and then the next year you just give it, that's so bipolar, it's crazy. Like does he not have advisors? I feel like he plays like NHL 26 GM mode and like just like wings it, and he probably has salary cap off.
Yeah, he waved the white flag, and we're talking about the Kako deal was early December?
Yeah.
It's like right around there, late November, early December. That wasn't even the first move. The Trouba trade was like a couple weeks prior too.
It was, yeah.
You're talking about, like I said before, it's one thing for me, you, some of the folks on Rangers Twitter to be this reactionary. I'll trade the whole team, fire this guy, fire that guy. Hell, we're doing it in a way with Drury. Like, obviously I know it's not his first day in the office, but they're also, I don't think they're going to fire him 4 games into the year. But with this, franchise, expect the unexpected. He did that last year. And like you're saying too, not only was it so reactionary, it was inconsistent with the beliefs he was holding the last couple months of the prior season. And kind of to draw another Met parallel, you heard our fucking owner talking about hope not being a strategy, and then his last 2 off seasons have been signing a bunch of fucking injury-prone mid-30-year-olds and hoping they pan out. That's kind of what Drury did. He did a complete 180. He was, holding all these prospects, trying to get every last drop out of the bottle, And then you didn't see it right out of the gates. He hit the panic button, which is funny because the first month of the year, they weren't even that half bad. It's like you were saying before, and I totally agree with you, but last year kind of felt like the exception of one misstep leading to another. Because the first, I'd say 8 to 10 games, they were fine. It's just shit hit the fan after that. And they were at a point of no return. And we had it, like you said, he's on NHL 25, 26, whatever the fuck, and just hit the panic button way too early on the season, not so much the assets that he traded. I think a lot of them were long overdue. And he waited far too long. And, Kako's one specific example. You could go down the line of the Vitaly Kratsovs, who are, in his case, is completely out of the league now. The people we don't want to trade for him, cough, cough, Jack Eichel. And I know there was a thing about, I think it was still Kevin Adams at the time, right? The GM, whoever it was, didn't want to trade him in the East. So I get that. But just like the hesitance to not trade these guys. Kratsov is what? At that point in his career, 2021, 3-4 years into his career.
Yeah.
You're not talking about, cutting ties with the guy way too soon. It's 4 years, and the guy's being talked about in these discussions for a reason. The Kako thing, way too long. And I was just like you when we first drafted him. There's a clip of Steve Valiquette. He's arguably the better prospect that Jack Hughes is. I think that was justified at the time. And now we're seeing all the shit on the big screen at Prudential. You got fucking Jack Hughes laughing the day he gets traded.
I've never wanted to punch somebody in the face so hard in my life.
It's blood boiling, dude. And it comes back full circle every single time. And we're the butt of the joke every single time. Every single time. The video of the cheering at MSG.
Yep.
It's like it put us beyond the 8 ball before we even had a chance. Like Kako could have been like said Yari Curry here. How the fuck do you cheer the pick? You don't even cheer the pick itself, though. Like, you're asking to get fucking laughed at all these years later. And Hughes, there's a debate about whether or not, he's got the size to be in the league because, the guy fucking gets hit by the rug, gets to win, he's missing time. But when the dude's on the ice, bro, he is one of the most skilled players in the league. And what do we have to show for it? One pick later.
Nothing. I mean, the league has definitely changed from when I was. Back then, you had roles. Like you were an enforcer, you were the scorer, you were the guy that set everything up. Now it's a little bit of a mix. If they're even you can really call yourself it. I mean, Rempe's our guy, I guess, but there's only one guy. There was a line. That was a checking line. It was in the description of the line. That's what they did. So one of my favorite players growing up was Theo Fleury. The guy was 5'5". 6, 7, something like that. I mean, he was one of the shorter guys, but was an animal, pure animal. So whenever people kind of compare sizes and all right, he gets knocked down a lot, Hughes, but man, you got to catch that boy. He's fast, he's quick, he's got great hands, and I'm not sure who our scouts are, but again, like Valley said, I think it was a flip of the coin. It really didn't matter. It was Hughes or Kako. I think no matter what, we were going to win. A part of me thinks that it has a lot to do with, development. So if you're not using the kid right, of course his actual skill level isn't going to be shown because he's being made to play a game that's not him. So of course, and then he goes over to Seattle and he goes off. Everybody's shocked. Well, how could you be shocked? He was a number 2 draft pick. He has all the tools. Why are we not seeing the common denominator here is when they leave here, they flourish most of the time. It's something within our organization, but let's keep bringing back the head of this.
It's 4 years in a row of that common denominator. You go back to Lias Anderson in, what was that, 17? You traded up for Lias Anderson. That was the whole D'Angelo with the Stepan and Ronta. That was the draft night trade. We traded up for Lias Anderson, and really his lasting legacy was fucking falling on his ass during the opening night lineup.
Yeah.
You got Kratsov, that whole saga, and now he's in the KHL, dingling, dangling, and when he comes back here to North America, nobody wants him. Kako, like you said, Kako's looking like a star. Really, it's between Keandre and Heedle between the two teams, and then you got Nils Lundqvist thrown in there, wound up being nothing as well. But between Keandre and Philip Heedle were like the two first rounders in the middle of that 4-year stretch. Because then we could get to the Lafreniere debate. He's the lone, last man standing.
I'm a big Laffy fan, so
see there we kind of disagree. But no, I'll
we'll talk about that. Don't you?
Yeah, no,
we'll talk about it.
We got it all. We could check every box. Between Keandre and Filipino, like you still saw some of the promise seep out, and yet it still never felt like they got 100% out of him. And Heedle somewhat was the injuries, but I feel like that was really the last couple of years he was here. Early on, that wasn't really a huge concern with him. Keandre, bro, it was crazy to me because he had all the offensive premise, all the offensive promise of the world, and he couldn't do shit in the defensive end. It was the craziest thing. It almost gave me it was like an irrational thought I had, but I was like, bro, you're getting nothing out of your bottom six. Why not fucking try this guy out at the right wing? Maybe he's like the reverse Brent Burns because you're not getting shit out of him in your own zone, and he's good for double-digit goals a year. So far, he's got, I think, 2 or 3 this year. Like, I know they weren't going to do it, but you had something to work with this guy, and it never, even though he was probably the one that panned out the most out of the 3-year stretch, which is crazy to say, you still feel like you didn't even get close to what you could have out of him. And that's just like in hindsight, you look at all these guys they drafted, some being more their fault than other, but like you said, it's a common denominator. They can't get shit out of these top prospects they draft, and it's really what killed the rebuild before it ever even started.
Yeah. The thing about Keandre, I liked him. I did. And I feel like playing in New York was too much for him. Like every time he made a mistake, it looked like he was killing himself up in his head. Mm-hmm. And again, you're playing Garden Ice. You're playing New York newspaper, New York media, especially now with social media. So you're going to know before you even get to your locker room just what everybody thinks of you. So that might be a lot for the kid. I never in a million years had the thought of moving him up. That probably, what do you have to lose at that point, right? I mean,
nothing. You weren't getting shit out of the bottom six.
And he's got size. He's got a offensive mindset. So just another thing to talk about a what ifs with this fucking team.
So we could get into Lafreniere real quick. Tell me what I'm not the biggest hater of his in the world, but I don't care,
even if you are. Here's my thing about everybody. Listen, again, you're talking about a kid who just turned 24, right? So this is year 4 for him, right?
I think this is year 6, I think.
Has it been 6 fucking years?
He was a 2020.
He came up in 18?
COVID's Lafreniere was a 2020 pick. He was during COVID.
Right. He played 2020 or he didn't play till 20. First of all, the bubble, I can't even stand the bubble. But anyway.
It's a blur to me, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
I got it up. This is his 6th season. It's hard to believe, but yeah.
Okay. I'm still going to go with it.
No, you're good. No, take your time.
No, because 6 years, you're not a kid anymore. I mean, even though he's only 24, but you are a veteran.
This could be off the beaten path. He's 19, or his first year was 19. Damn, yeah. So his first season was that second Tampa Cup. That modified. It wasn't the bubble, but it was like that modified season.
Yeah.
That was his first year. That's fucking crazy. That's I can't believe it's been that long.
Do me a favor. Give me games played in points from 19 to now.
19, he played 56 games, 12 goals, 21 points. You want goals too or just points?
No, just give me points.
All right. Age 19, 56 games, 21 points. Age 20, 79 games, 31 points. 21, 22, 23, played all 82. He had 39 points his 21 year, 57 points his age 22 year, and 45 points last season was his age 23 year.
Okay. With a little plus minus of maybe 5 or 6, we see he's increasing. As the more time he gets on the ice, the more he's producing. Listen, a point is a point is a point. Wayne Gretzky had more assists than Gordie Howe had points, okay? So goal scoring is great, but to put the puck in the back of the net, someone's got to get him the puck. So I'm a big believer in I want to see your plus minus and your points. Are you on the ice for goals going in, and are you putting goals in? He needs to be on a line. I don't know how you're going to feel about this. I am not a fan of Zibby. Zabadajad has gone off the path. I don't know. It's like he's playing his own. My ideal line would be Panarin centered Miller with Laugh. You have two guys who are PPG guys with a kid that has potential to put up 80 to 100 points a year with the right surroundings. And then you have Trocheck on the second line, Cooley, who's growing on me, and I don't know. I'm not even sure who the hell else is in our organization that could center the second line right now. But Lafreniere, I feel like, has been hanging on to being relevant in a midst of just a constant chaos with never ever. I mean, how many different line combinations have we seen between the three coaches that have been behind that bench?
That's the one thing. Yeah, it's the lack of the sustainability.
There's
And
no chemistry. There's no chemistry.
that the 24 season, he was his highest point total with the 57. That was that Panarin Trocheck line they were running. And by the way, I 110% agree with you on Zibby. That's you'll notice a trend with me more often than not. If you want to ask my opinion on a player, more often than not, it's not going to be a good one.
Yeah.
And Zibby's right there in the fold. It almost feels like what I was saying before about Kreider. It almost felt like him and Kreids were on their own separate end of the depth chart with the Breads and the Trochecks, even going back to when we had Strome. It almost felt like they were two different lineups. Like you always had Kreider, Mika, and you had the fucking carousel, the right wing by committee.
Right.
That's guys like fucking Dryden Hunt and whatnot on our first line. And then you always had Panarin and Strome hand the baton right to Trocheck. And then I think once Trocheck came in, they threw Laffy on that line. And that's when we really saw him break ground. And last year, we didn't see that as much. So I think I agree with part of that is like the situation, the fact that you've never really stayed true to one coach, but at the same time, like I called for Laviolette's head last year, go on. That was in and out. I always wanted Drury gone, but go on. I was like, maybe stick it out one more season. Laviolette healed all wounds right away, winning the fucking President's Trophy. So it was kind of like a hindsight's 2020 thing. But now you look at what Laviolette turned into, you're like, all right, I'm not saying go running right back and get Gallant because I think now he's like in China or some shit. So he wasn't necessarily Scotty Bowman that we fired, way too soon. I get it. But, and I mean, going back to what was it, David Quinn, he's kind of like the assassin of all these, prospects, right? That was everybody was talking about. He ruined Laffy, ruined Kako right out of the gates. And that was why a lot of people couldn't believe San Jose went out and hired him. And he didn't have Macklin. I think did he have Will Smith? Anyway, he was behind the bench of that up and coming promising Sharks core at one point in time, and people couldn't believe it. Now they got him out of town right away, it felt like. But I somewhat agree with the coaching thing and the lack of sustainability, but at the same time, same coach last year, and we didn't see that next step get taken. And I think now, it's 4 games in, it's way too, early on to put any stamp on his season. Now he's already got a goal and an assist, but we not seeing that step get taken last year, much less the fact that he got paid right out of the gates was another not so much premature decision, but a decision that was made very early on in the year. And if you look at the game logs, you could kind of see that drop in production happen right around where he got paid. I'm not going to say he's a lazy, unincentivized piece of shit, but at the same time, it's not a great look when your point and goal totals go down the second you get signed to 7 years. You know what I'm trying to say?
I definitely agree with that. I would hate, honestly, I would hate to think anybody, like, after they get paid, they're just like, they're thinking, all right, now I can just lamp up and just,
we see that a lot, though, especially in the city. We do see it a lot.
Like, that's what, I don't know, that you're getting paid to play a kid's game.
It's ridiculous. No, yeah. And like you could see, here's the thing, like it's hard to see a human element to it. Like you said, anybody would dream for this job. You almost feel like, if I'm at this point, like I don't know how to say it. Cause it's different if you're a first overall pick too. You're not supposed to be thought of as in and out of the lineup as a first overall pick. It's one thing if you were like a fourth, just to throw a name out there, fucking Taylor Radish, just to throw a name out there. It's one thing if you think you're in and out of lineups for the rest of your career, you bank on one brilliant season. You're like, all right, I got a couple years to work with now. That's not what you're supposed to. Hell, I hate to keep drawing Met parallels, but we kind of saw with Sean Manaea last year. And it's hard not to think we saw that exemplified with Sean Manaea. He was 1 foot out the door. He's a long reliever out in San Francisco. He comes here on a 1-year deal, has beyond a great season, so much so he's pretty much the de facto ace for us. And the second he gets paid, he's got fucking like a pilonidal cyst in his elbow. He's got bones or some shit in his elbow, so we don't even see him until July. And then we finally see him, and he's dog shit. First of a multi-year deal, by the way. And now, like I said before, I don't think so much that that's something to worry about. Like with a Sean Manaea, where 2 years prior you were pretty much looked like you were on death's doorstep of an MLB career. That shouldn't be the case with a 24-year-old, like we said. But it looked like we saw that, come to form last year, the second he got paid. And there's kind of like the AAV is not even that bad. If he is ideally winds up being for the long run of this contract what he was in 2024, the AAV is not going to be a problem. But it's like the second he signed that deal, it kind of felt like we went right back to square one. And, kind of like you were saying, G, off the track record of these prospects, whenever it looks like you have something building up on the precipice of kind of coming close to your potential, it felt like we were as close to as ever before with any prospect with Laffey. And the second he got paid, we saw that like all evaporate.
Well, I mean, luckily the season's young, and well,
that's the silver lining.
That's really it. I mean, we could see how they react. I mean, it's not like they got shellacked. It was a hard-fought game, in my opinion. I mean, they could have looked a lot better, but for whatever reason, in my opinion, they looked a little not unprepared. I mean, I guess they were a little bit overwhelmed by just Washington's response to whatever game plan maybe they came out with. So we'll see where they go from there and what kind of changes. What's up with who the hell went into the boards? Looked like he broke his neck.
Last game, Susie, yeah. Susie was out last game. I think that was against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he went. Any news on him?
I haven't seen nothing. Let me look real quick. And then we also got Trocheck's going to miss a couple weeks. So out of the gates, Trocheck
week to week is the Trocheck, and that's huge. Like that sucks. That puts so much more. And damn, who somebody got hurt at the end of the game last night.
He's on the IR. I don't know if that was already known. Susie, because I know he missed last night. They put him on the IR. I don't know. I don't think they never specify like 10-day and whatnot, right? They just do like the upper lower body.
Yeah, upper lower body, day to day, week to week.
Yeah, so he's an IR stint. Trocheck, like you said, week to week, which is crazy too, because you're talking about a guy in Tro that I think not just an Ironman thing. I think these are legitimately the first games he's missing since we signed him.
Well, yeah, I mean he's a tough kid, so I don't know what he did. Sure. I don't know what he did, but upper body is so.
And you were. No, go ahead.
No, upper body is just so vague. It could be anything. And
you were even talking about Miller too. There was a talk about like if he wasn't 100%, like if he's playing through some shit, is kind of what his deal is.
I know he hurt. He tweaked his groin during scrimmage before the season started. So don't know if he's all the way back from that. He's gonna go until his legs fall off. But Connor Sherry got hurt. I don't know. I don't know if it's listed yet or not, or I hope it's all right. But I mean, he left the ice holding his. He dropped his stick, his gloves. He skated to the tunnel.
So not sure. We got Susie on an IR stint though. Trocheck's going to be week to week, and like you were saying too, like he's been the one constant. I feel like a lot of people though, kind of the name like the X factor thus far through 4 games have been Noah Laba. A lot of people craving. I love Laba. He's looked great so far. Yeah,
I love Laba. Edstrom looked good, stepping up. I thought he looked all right. But our top guys, I mean, save for maybe the one time, our top 2 lines haven't looked like I feel like they should. Our defensive pairings have looked great. Fox is stepping up.
You've been a fan of Gavrikov so far. I feel like he's left a lot to be decided. Albeit 4 games. Like that's the thing. Like it'll be a slow start for some more than others. But what do you think of Gavrikov?
I think he's a big kid. He's like 6'3" or something like that. Over 200 pounds. He's he looked all right. I mean, again, we're 4 games in, and it sucks having just that little bit of a sample size. But you know, in dealing with the mishaps that we have, I'm hoping it's only up from here. I mean, we can't possibly go down the same turmoil that we have year after year. I mean, something has to click eventually, and that's the way I'm able to go to sleep at night. Otherwise, I'll end up hanging myself off the fucking balcony.
You and me both, bro.
Yeah,
You
man.
and me both. It don't matter if it's a sheet of ice, a fucking turf, a baseball diamond.
Man,
That's what keeps us going.
baseball, bro. I went to the Met Marlin game, last game of the season,
You
boy.
were
And
there?
yeah, I went.
Holy
And
shit, dude.
let me tell you, there's been time I've been to so many games. I've never gone to a game where it was like win or go home. And first of all, in the Miami, the Miami people that run that stadium are scumbags because they weren't showing. They were showing all of the other games box scores except Cincy.
You're kidding me.
No, and it was definitely done on purpose. So I had my phone out. I'm watching that game,
Well, like
and
the out of town?
yeah, the out of town scoreboard had every game except that one. And
That's
all the
crazy.
Mets fans around me were like, they were going like nuts. So we all had our phones out. We were watching the game, and it's surreal to watch your team just implode in front of you, and not a fucking thing you can do about it. And Mendoza, hate him, put him on the next shuttle going to space, put him out there. To watch him dance out the whole fucking bullpen, everybody, and it was like, it was so odd. I remember, who the hell was pitching? Was it Taylor? I think Taylor had given up. Oh, damn, was it Taylor's? I can't remember who it was, but it was like he struck out two and then gave up an infield perfectly. It was like a swinging bunt to the third baseman. He had to put it in his pocket, but it was a base hit. Okay, and then that's when the whole carousel came off. He just started overmatch. I don't know what he was doing. It was like everybody gets to play today because he knows we're not playing tomorrow, and that really angered me. Just instead of a commercial break, I'm watching this shit happen. Like they're fucking dancing out of. I was right by the bullpen. I was right in right center, front row, and I'm just watching. Every time the door opened, it's just like, what are you doing? What is going on here? And
And
then out they
Diaz
go.
was the most used one. First time in his
Bro,
career, you look at a box score.
I wish I was recording when he brought Diaz in the fifth inning. The fifth inning. I think it was only 1-0 at that point. I can't.
I was it because I think Stanek was the first one that imploded. No, all four
So it was 4-0. I don't
runs
remember.
happened in the same inning. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
it was the fourth, and then when Diaz came out, all of us are looking at each other. I don't know none of these people, and we're all like, am I having a stroke? Did I miss 4 innings? What's going on? And then he leaves him in for an inning, and it's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, Diaz came in the fifth. Yeah, that was Stanek and Rogers were the two. Yup. Unfucking real, bro. And then at the same time, like, it looked like something out of like fucking Cirque du Soleil. Like they were trying to showcase every last pitcher. Like they're all getting fucking dealt in the offseason, which there's no reason they shouldn't, honestly. Diaz is the only one. Maybe you keep Raley, but everybody else should be out the fucking door. So maybe that's what that was. It was like a last like send off for everybody. But
it was the oddest thing, bro.
You know what, bro? I'll even play devil's advocate for a second. If you're a team that had the cojones to go out there and you weren't out there against the fucking late 90s Yankees. I get the Marlins were a feel good story this year, but bro, like they still finished sub 500. Every fucking year we got to see the graphics and the fucking Forbes shit of like top payrolls in the league. You're always 1 or 2 and they're always bottom 5. This year not only were they bottom 5, they were 30th out of 30.
Yeah, they were dead last.
This was the team in between you and really you could have fucking obliterated them. You were still fucking beyond the 8 ball in terms of, meeting expectations this year because I don't think anybody had drawn up the fact that in a best case scenario, this team needed a game 162 win to fucking sneak into the playoffs on the last day of the year. So even in a perfect world, you win that game, you're still a fucking, a disappointment of a year. But, a team that will, and like you were saying too, what wound up being controlling their own destiny with the Milwaukee win, because going into the day, since all he had to do was win the game and they were in, they couldn't even fucking do that.
Yep.
If you're a team that's trying to eye up, balls to the wall, we're getting into the postseason by any means necessary, you should have to score fucking 4 runs minimum. It feels like the pitching staff, in a way, still did their job. Because when you draw it up, when it's all said and done, 4 runs isn't fucking end-all, be-all.
No.
5 hits and 0 runs is end-all, be-all, and that's what fucking ended this nightmare of a season. Then you got, like the peaks and valleys of the year where, there were different places to point blame towards, whether it be that when they couldn't hit, they were pitching. When they couldn't pitch, they were hitting. And while they were hitting, you had the fucking moron that is Eric Chavez putting on his Instagram story, like, who's laughing now? 2 days later, they get fucking 1 hit. It was a fucking circus act, bro.
You cannot.
From June onward.
You can't have a season where you have, what was it, 3 or 4 7-game losing streaks, 7+ game losing streaks.
Yep.
You can't have that.
And some of those worse than others. One of them, I think it was like it might have been the last one. There was the one in August, and I remember specifically, it was the game Pete hit the homer to pass Darryl.
Yeah.
That was in a win that they still blew like a 5-1 loss, or still blew a 5-1 lead. And that was really the bridge in between like 2 5-game losing streaks. So like that doesn't really fall under that umbrella, but like that's like the shit that gets lost.
It's close enough. I mean, there's no listen, if you have a rotation of 5 solid guys, nowhere in there should you have losing streaks of 5 games. That's unacceptable. It is unacceptable. You're either mismanaging, your pitching's not doing its thing, or we're not hitting. And when all 3 of those things are happening at once, you get game where we lost like 11 in a row or something like that, didn't we?
It was close to it. It was Seattle and Atlanta back to back. I think every single one of those, minus like the Little League World Series shit, because that was when that was, they blew like a lead of at least 3 runs in every single one of them. One of the games, they blew like 3 different leads. And there's like that fucking graphic of the Mets led and lost all of these games. It's like bases loaded, 1 out in the 12th. That Dodger game, I remember the 2 games in a row. I think we were in Milwaukee one night and then hosted Cleveland the next. Regardless, there was the game with Cleveland. We held up Taylor at third with a ball that wound up getting bobbled. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Everybody was calling for the fucking third base coach's head, and rightfully so in hindsight. And the next night, they're in Milwaukee. He then sends the guy at third. I think it was Marte, and he's fucking out by a mile in the game clinching out. It's like, this is the shit you can't fucking draw up in your worst nightmare. And we're Met fans that have been through it. You've seen a lot more than me, and I even feel like I've seen a lifetime's worth. It's fucking nightmarish shit.
We haven't been to. It's been 10 years since the World Series. I was 3 when they won the World Series, so I don't even know really what it looks like to win. And it's our season summed up in one at bat was the final game of the season, bases loaded, 2 outs, and Alonso hits a 115 mile an hour velocity back out, and it's a line drive out.
That was the hardest hit ball of the year.
150. It's almost physically impossible to hit a ball far harder than that. And when I tell you, from my vantage point watching that, I thought it was going to like put a dent in the wall, and then all of a sudden, I don't even know who the hell the left fielder was. He's just there.
It almost went through his fucking glove. You see, like the way he caught it, it was like all fucking weird and shit.
It was hit so hard in real life that I had to go online because I know that the MLB StatCast or whatever it is puts up how hard hit balls were. And when I saw 115, I was like, that is the Mets season right there. And I knew we weren't going to win after that.
No, there's shit like that. Like you see the I'll give you another game was the Nationals game you had. I'm forgetting the center fielder's name where he was fucking kicking the ball around and caught it. He kicked the ball up, caught it, and then robbed the homer. Yeah, and then he robbed the homer, robbed Alvarez, I think it was, in the 9th.
Yeah.
That's like the unlucky shit. I don't think that's like the at-bats of this season because I think you've had years past Well, it really most of the time it feels like with this organization it's self-inflicted because that's
It's
just
all the
flat out bad
same
luck.
shit, man.
You
And my
look at
favorite, listen,
there you go.
my favorite thing is reading online the Yankee fans that cry about little shit not going their way. They're so upset, haven't won a World Series since 2009. I'm like, excuse me? You guys have no idea. You can't be in this boat. This is our boat. You stay the fuck over there because you guys have a. Oh, I'll get to that. I just had a thought. You guys are so spoiled that little things you guys melt down over. Meanwhile, we have real deal collapses. Okay, collapse like 21 games over 500, and then we're fighting the Marlins to get into the playoffs as a second tier wild card, and we're already out of the game by the fourth inning. That's that you could be in the boat when you have that kind of problem.
Bro, they missed the playoffs for the first time in like 10 years, and we're still over 500. Now, I guess it's like that whole moral victory shit, but it's like, even in that season, that is like the worst of the worst that they've endured. Was a over 500, barely missing the playoffs. That's the worst.
Yep.
That's a blessing because I think they were out. They got eliminated like a week left that specific season 23. They were in a game 162 elimination. I know that for sure. That is a nightmare scenario for this fucking Yankee regime. For us, that's a fucking blessing. It almost feels like relief that you didn't really have to endure any fucking like tease.
Right. I didn't have to drive down to Miami and spend money to watch my leadoff hitter, the captain of the team, hit into a season-ending double play. That is problems.
Soto had that double play too, right? I think it was like the third.
Yeah.
That's, I think, more of an embodiment of the season. You know, the whole Soto debacle. First off, the fact that you basically needed like Starling Marte to be the glue between your two $30+ million superstars. You have a guy on the last leg of his career being the glue that's keeping the clubhouse together. And that's kind of the whole thing, that the whole magic of last year was you had not one but two of those roles in JD Martinez and Jose Iglesias, both of which were, one was basically people like, I was clamoring for him to be signed really as a bat more so than a veteran presence. I didn't even have that in mind when I wanted him. It's just I was getting sick of seeing people like fucking Daniel Vogelbach and Darren Ruff DH for the team.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted him. And it took until like 3 days before opening day to get his deal done. And then Jose Iglesias was brought in on a minor league contract and the only reason he saw the team was because motherfuckers like Joey Wendell and Zach Short got DFA'd right away, which is a whole other thing that we could, I don't want to get completely into the weeds with, but, the one element that we didn't see, get transferred for 25 into 2025 for 24 was David Stearns and company not, putting up with bullshit. You see a guy like Joey Wendell fucking boot a ground ball. He's DFA'd the next day. A guy like Jake Diekman, 2 days removed from winning a game by striking out Aaron fucking Judge, blew a lead. He's DFA'd the next day. We didn't see that shit this year. Ryan Helsley finished the season with the team. Cedric Mullins finished the season with the team. Jared Young finished the season with the team. They didn't bite the bullet on people like they did the year prior and kind of, full circling that type of mentality is what brought Jose Iglesias into the fold. If you're going with that rhetoric the entirety of last season, you're finishing the year with Joey Wendell and Zach Short on the team, and we never see Jose Iglesias. We never see the OMG shit. We never see that post-game concert, which was all fine and dandy at the time. I mean, it was cool. And the only reason that, for me personally, winning cures all. The only reason it was cool was because they were winning during the entirety of it. If they were doing concerts and shit after blowing a 5-run lead, I'd have a problem with it. So the winning cures all.
To the stadium. I mean, it all comes down to culture. It comes down to what the organization expects. Now, listen, I might hate the Yankees fan base, but I grew up playing this game, watching this game. I've always appreciated how the original Steinbrenner ran his team. It was all business. Suits, no facial hair. You were expected to play a certain way, and if you didn't, that's great. You're going to be on the next train. You're going to be stocking shelves. That's how it went. So, I don't feel sorry for anybody that has a team like ours now, especially that will accept anything better than their best. If you're gonna give me shit, I'm gonna give you the same energy, and that's for all our teams, man. If put the Rangers, the Knicks, the Mets, why are we not building our model around the culture of the '90s and 2000 Yankees?
But it's fun. Like we saw part of that. We didn't really see like the whole facial hair thing. But in terms of like the not dealing with the bullshit lack of production, there was something to that last year. Nobody, the GM didn't change, the manager didn't change, the pitching staff did change, or the coaching staff rather didn't change. I don't know where that got lost in the fold.
That's what I'm saying. Why is it acceptable now?
Right. It wasn't. It was the furthest thing last year, and like guys like Iglesias, we don't see them. Daniel Nunez was another one. I think was the guy that got brought up for Diekman specifically. Like not only just cutting ties with the bullshit, which is something we missed in and of itself, but the people that we wound up seeing as a result of it wound up being the needle movers of the whole season. Like Vientos is another one. Well, Vientos is weird because I feel like he was going to be in the mix no matter what. He wasn't. I don't think he was. It was an ideal world for him to become a bona fide DH that it looked like he stamped with the postseason run, and typical fucking Mets fashion. You had a guy break franchise postseason history in one breath, and then he's right back to square one in another. And like we were talking about with Lafreniere, he didn't even fucking get the paycheck. So I don't even know what his situation is. He just completely, went right back to square one for whatever reason. But like you said, it was like that dealing with no bullshit type regime was what got the Yankees all those rings. It looked like some sort of philosophy we were going to see with Stearns and them last year. And for whatever reason, it just evaporated. And that's why we got last season. All right. So that's just about going to do it for this episode. My man, G, happy to have you, bro. I'm really pumped. Looking forward to getting this on the road and making this kind of like a co-host thing moving forward. And what better way to get things on the road with a little Ranger Met talk? But hey, man, let's make the most of this, bro. Let's get this on the road. All right, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, brother. It's a lot easier with two, I'll tell you that.
Hey, your lips to God's ears, bro. And to everybody listening, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching if we are on the YouTube end of things. And stay tuned. A little bit of like a mix up of show updates, everything. We'll keep you posted.
There's
And
a lot fucking more coming. You people better watch.
buckle up. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. But anyways, thank you for all the support. And we will see you on the next episode of the Apples to Apples podcast. See you, everybody.